Welcome to another episode of Lady Mogul Talk, and today we have the fabulous Dr. Laura Lewis, a licensed psychologist, author, and entrepreneur. She has over 10 years of experience in helping distant couples heal after infidelity by building trust, cultivating intimacy, and enhancing their communication. Her therapeutic approach has been influenced all over the world, including training in Brazil, Mexico, London, and Haiti. And I love to travel, so I'm like, oh my goodness, she is international, everyone. Dr. Lewis has conducted hundreds of seminars transforming relationships all over the world, and she is affectionately known as the marriage architect. And in her book, Marital Peace, she is a valuable resource, and her purpose is to support couples through the challenges of marriage. And if that wasn't enough with all of her extensive credentials, in addition to spending several years teaching at the college level, she started the Couch to Podium Academy, where she teaches purpose-driven speakers how to package and position themselves in the marketplace and get premium clients to get paid. And if you have been looking to leverage your expertise through paid speaking opportunities, Dr. Lewis is the go-to and does exactly that by showing you how she was able to book herself over 200 lucrative speaking engagements, both domestically and internationally, and also build a steady stream of revenue for her business, which is big because not everybody can do that. So give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Laura Lewis.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on the Lady Mogul Talk.
Yes, and I, just love you so much. It was just such an honor for me to be on your platform, and I definitely had to return the favor because you have so many things going on, and the way you work with entrepreneurs is top tier.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that, and I really loved our interview on the Couch to Podium podcast. You dropped so many amazing nuggets, so I'm excited to be here and share with your audience about speaking.
Thank you. And, I know that you will drop so many nuggets because following you, I can't remember the first introduction to you, but I was like, she knows what she's talking about. And I didn't even know the number of over 200 speaking engagements. That is impressive.
Thank you.
So diving into the conversation, let's just get to the heart of it. I know that a lot of my audience and people who I just come across, they're like, yes, I want to get into paid speaking, but they often see like the free opportunities or think that they're not worth like the higher tier prices. So why do you think that speakers have difficulty finding or booking high paid speaking engagements?
I think sometimes it's a matter of confidence. Like sometimes we may like undersell ourselves, or we get on the phone with someone that is like they see our expertise, but sometimes we don't see it in ourselves. And so I think that's one part, is really like knowing that you bring value to the table. And then the second part is also negotiating, right? Like having conversations about, okay, my rate for this is, sometimes I see in my work in coaching speakers is that they may like not have a conversation about payment or negotiate and say, okay, for something like this, I would charge this rate. And then a lot of speakers just don't know what's available to them. Like a lot of speakers may not be aware where the locations are that pay speakers. Like there's certain types of organizations that pay speakers.
Yes, you're right about that. And I'm glad you touched on confidence because that was the first thing that popped into my mind about mindset. And even thinking about my own journey, prices sometimes have been low for even not necessarily speaking, but in general, because you're like, okay, will people pay this much? Or how do I even find the people who will pay this? And which I think that is why it's so important to find actual experts like yourself to pave the way, to show you, okay, this is step one, this is step two. These are the things that you need to do to get these lucrative opportunities. Mm-hmm. So going deeper on that, because you're the expert and I'm still learning myself, so you need to rely on Dr. Lewis here. What are the top tips that you would tell someone who's either trying to start, or maybe they've started but they're still not finding these higher paid engagements? What would be like the top tips that you would share with them?
Sure, great question. So I had a consultation with a client, Cheryl, and she was like, "Okay, I'm about to have a conversation with someone." It was a university that she was going to be speaking to, and she was like, "Well, how do I frame this conversation? How do I even talk about like getting paid?" And so we really first focused on her rate. And I like to divide rates up in a few categories. So if you're speaking at a corporation, you want to have a rate for corporations. Universities have a little bit lower of a rate, but they pay speakers. And then half day, full day, nonprofit, and then keynote. So those are some of the things that you want to think about when setting your rate is, okay, what's my rate for keynote? What's my rate for half day? What's my rate for full day?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would also say, think about your travel, because that's one thing that speakers may not readily think about is the expense of like taking a flight and getting a hotel and making sure that your accommodations are covered.
Very good points. And I think the key takeaway from what you just said is you didn't come up with these prices arbitrarily. You looked at the
Yeah.
industry, you looked at whether it's like a half day versus full day workshop. Is the actual strategy behind it, not just experimenting and say, okay, let's just throw this out of the wind. And I'm sure a lot of market research is a part of that. And I'm sure that's another thing that you come across that people neglect the most. So for those who maybe just don't know where to start, and they're thinking, okay, maybe they don't even have a topic. Where do they start from there? How do they know like what industry is right for them, or what specific niche is right for them?
For me, like I found my topic based on my passion, because I was like, and I was working with a lot of people around speaking, and I was like, well, what is the area that people struggle with the most around speaking? And one of the things that I found is
Mm-hmm.
marketing themselves as a speaker and getting paid to speak. And so that became like my signature topic, like getting paid to speak. So I would say, look at like what you're passionate about, what you could talk about like all day long and never get tired of it. Like that's something that will let you know, okay, I have a drive in this area, or I'm gifted in this area. Those are some of the things to ask yourself. What am I gifted in? What comes natural for me? What can I
Mm-hmm.
do like days on end without like having to do a lot of prep? Like those are some of the things that let you know, okay, this is probably the niche for me.
Great information and great tips. Now, for those who are on the fence and thinking that speaking is not for them, or they don't think their topic is a well sought out topic, what advice would you have for them?
You want to make sure that your topic is something that can work well within many different domains. So, like, for example, you want to have a topic that could work well for universities that can also have some synergy with corporations. So you stay on the same topic, but then you just hit a different lens based on who your audience is. So that was one thing with me and picking like my signature topic is I wanted it to fit well within different organizations. And I like to have like one like key signature topic, because when you do it so many times over and over again, like you get masterful in doing it, versus if you're totally changing topics with every organization you speak at, it's like you're starting all over again from scratch. And then to your point, like market research definitely helps. Like there's certain topics at universities that they have like earmarked funds for, like leadership, career development. Those are some topics that they'll always have funding for.
Great information. And I mean, really, you've just dropped so many gems. And I know that you have so much more to give, but I don't want to give it all away because you have some things in the works. So I want to switch gears just a little bit and just ask, because I always I'm very curious about how people get their start. So how did you get started in the world of speaking? What was that switch? I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is my passion.
For me, I first got started when I was in grad school. I went to Howard University, go Bisons. So I was at Howard University and I was working on my PhD in counseling psychology because I'm a psychologist. And I was like, I wanted to get my work out there because I was doing research, but I was like, how can I get my work out there? And I remember talking to my mentor, and he was like, well, you should pitch to speak at conferences. That's another sidebar. Conferences have budgets to pay speakers. So that's what my mentor said. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to write a proposal, which was maybe a paragraph abstract of what the talk was going to be about. And then they end up accepting it. And so the conference paid for my travel, and I flew there, did the workshop. I was nervous. I was scared to death. I was so nervous, like armpit sweaty, hands sweaty, all that stuff. But it was also like a rush. It was like an exciting rush to me to do it. So then I ended up taking some time after that before I got the nerve to do my next one. So it was probably a year later before I was speaking in. And then I started to grow my agency because I have it's about 10 of us, 10 employees, and I have an agency where we provide clinical services. And so I was like, all right, I'm starting to get full in my agency work. How can I scale? Like, how can I help more people? Because I had got maxed out on one-on-one services. So once I started to get maxed out on one-on-one clients, I was like, how am I going to continue to bring in more revenue into my company and help more people? And so that's when I returned back to my love of speaking again.
And I don't, well, you kind of glossed over it, but I caught the gem in what you just said. She said she did it scared. She was afraid, armpit sweating. And that could have easily been a moment where you said, okay, I'm not going to do this. This is not for me. But you put yourself in the deep. Even though you took a hiatus, you came back to it, and maybe it just wasn't that right time, but it was
Yeah.
still plugged into you, and at least, like I said, you took that leap. So that was really important. You have to do it scared sometimes. You never know what's going to come about it. And now you have over 200 paid lucrative, that's the keyword, lucrative speaking engagements.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I still do, like speaking engagements, like where I waive my fee, but it's done with a strategy, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
one strategy where you may speak for free is where you'll have the opportunity to gain leads, gain prospects, or to share your services, right? Because say your speaker fee is like, my speaker fee ranges from $3,000 to $10,000. But say it's a room full of my target audience, and I can share like the products and services that I offer. And say my program is $10,000, and it's a room of 100 people, and I close 10% of those. Well, that's $100,000 right there. So it's a strategy that can also go with when you waive your fee. So I just wanted to add that for anybody out there who's like, okay, I want to still make money even on the back end. That's an
Mm-hmm.
option also.
Good information to have, because I've definitely had some free opportunities, and it really did. My target market was in the room. Like you said, you have to be strategic. You have to know who's in the room, because you just don't want to just accept any old opportunity. It has to work for you, definitely. Now, I would love to know, to date, and you have so much ahead of you, I know, but what has been your defining moment so far in your career, whether it's on your agency side or maybe the speaking side and entrepreneurial endeavors that you have?
There was a time in my business where it was like I was completely broke. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to live? How am I going to like take care of myself? Like, I was really, really struggling. And I was like, man, I got all this education, all these degrees, and I am broke. Like, how did this happen? And I remember in that moment, it was like, girl, you got to get it together. Like, get it together. And I did my own internal pep talk, my own internal affirmations. And I remember getting on the phone and I was calling organizations and I was telling them about who I am and what I do. And it was some people that were not interested. They have choice for words like, why are you calling? It was like around Christmas time. So some places were out of the office, a lot of no's, but I remember I got one yes. And I was on food stamps at the time. Like I'm talking about, it was a struggle. Food stamps, I don't know how I'm gonna pay my bills. And it was one organization, and it was a government agency, the city of Atlanta, and they ended up saying yes, and it was a 6-figure contract. And I
Oh.
remember everything changed in that moment where I started to like believe in myself and believe
Mhm.
in my vision and believe in like, okay, you can do this.
Mhm. My goodness, that what a testimony! First of all, I'm just in awe because it was so much that you said in that moment. You said you had a lot of no's, but all it took was that one yes. And that one yes was a 6-figure contract. You could have easily given up by the second, third, fourth no, but you kept going. You kept pushing yourself and saying, okay, something is going to happen. Denied does not mean delayed or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's how they go. So I think that is really important for us to just realize that sometimes you're going to have many no's before you get to that one yes. And if you give up on yes number 5, it could have been easily yes number 6 that was the one for you. So I think that is so important to highlight, to just keep going.
Yeah. And I can remember like speaking opportunities where I'm speaking on stage and then someone comes up to me afterwards and they're like, "Oh, I want you to speak for my organization."
Mhm.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Oh, they will follow up with me." And they did it. And then so I was like, "Well, maybe I should call them." So then I called them and they were like, "This isn't a good time for us to bring you in to speak." And that just kind of reminds me of what you said, like a delay is not a denial, because
Mhm.
at that moment I could have said, oh, well, they said no, so that's over with. And I continued to nurture a relationship with them. And I said, okay, well, it's been about a month. Let me circle back and see how
Mhm.
things are going now. And I circled back, and it ended up being a multiple thousands of dollars
Mhm.
speaking engagement where it started with like, this isn't a good time. And then it turned into just such a wonderful relationship where I've spoken countless times for this
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm. Mhm. Great nuggets still. I mean, I know I say it every time, but it really is because number one, you nurtured the relationship. You didn't know what was going to come about it. And then because of that nurturing, the money's in the follow up. We give up at the initial status saying, okay, if they don't have it, let me just go on to the next. But you nurtured them, and they obviously saw the value in your expertise. And speaking of expertise, I would love for you to share with our audience more about the Couch to Podium Academy. And of course, you have an event coming up, which I am so honored to speak at, coming up in October. So tell us more about that as well.
Absolutely. So, speaking has just transformed my life in so many ways. So many ways. I remember a few years ago, I took my mom to Paris, and she started to cry once we got to the Eiffel Tower, and I was like, "Mom, why are you crying?" And she was like, "I never thought I would see it. Like I never thought I would see Paris. I never thought I would see the Eiffel Tower." And it's moments like that that remind me of my why to do what I love with the people that I love. And so I started the Couch to Podium Academy because I wanted to give those types of moments to other messengers, other people who they have a calling, they're purpose driven, they're heart centered, and they want to get their message out there in the world, but maybe they just don't know how to market, how to position their message, how to secure paid speaking opportunities and negotiate well for themselves. So I started the Couch to Podium Academy, and it's every month we have a Q&A session, and we talk about like contracts and negotiations and how to like follow up with organizations to build a warm relationship with organizations that will pay you to speak. We just had a meeting on Monday, and it was so powerful. There was like 4 ladies on the phone, and they told me like 4 of the ladies told me that they had booked a speaking engagement like that week, and one was in Paris, and I was like, oh my gosh, full circle moment. And so it's moments like that that just excite me when I see that it's not just impacting my life, but it's impacting other like life-changing speakers' lives. And that's another reason why I'm excited about the conference as well, and that you are speaking.
Yes, I cannot wait. I'm going to definitely, I've been thinking about my presentation. I was like, how can I improve this for the audience? Because I've learned so much since then. And the presentation, I've always gotten great feedback, but I definitely want to over deliver to your audience because I know that they are phenomenal speakers. And just because of the quality of your brand, I just want to add my value where I can. It's going to be great. You definitely don't want to miss the Couch to Podium conference. So tell us, how can those who are interested in signing up sign up, and what else do they need to know?
Yeah, so you can go to my Instagram page at my Instagram page is Couch to Podium, and the link is right there in Linktree. You can click on it. We'll also provide the link to you as well. But yeah, so the conference is going to be October 21st and October 22nd. That's for general admission, and then we have a whole nother day, which is VIP day. If you want to be in VIP day, where I'm hosting like a small group of 10 speakers where I'll be walking you through, holding your hand through like marketing and your messaging for speaking. I do some calls with the speakers on VIP day, like calling organizations so that you can kind of see like what it's like to have a conversation with a meeting planner about bringing you in to speak. You also get a photo shoot. So for those of you who are going VIP, like it also includes like headshots. So every time I speak, people always ask for updated pictures and my bio. So I said, well, let me just take care of that for my VIPs that come to the conference. So your headshots will be taken care of. We also have a special lunch for our VIPs. So you want to go VIP. But overall in the conference, we're going to be talking about like how to book media. I've been featured in ABC, NBC, Wall Street Journal. So I'll be talking about how to position your brand so it's media ready. I'll also be talking to you about negotiating. We talked a bit about negotiating here, but I do a much deeper dive at the conference. So I'm just excited. If you got a message and more people need to know that you exist, then you need to be at this conference. It's going down in Atlanta, October 21st and 22nd, and then our special VIP day is going to be on that Thursday before.
And the great thing about everything you just said is, even though, yes, you're focusing on speakers, this information carries on over to other aspects of your business, because you definitely need to position yourself in your brand. You definitely need to know how to market yourself. So these are transferable skills. Yes, we're definitely focusing on speaking, but you can use this in any aspect of your brand. So you want to be there. And VIP is the place to be. I'm like, maybe I need to be front row VIP too. Okay. So I will make sure that we share this with our audience below in the caption to click the link. And you definitely want to sign up ASAP so you can be in the room. And plus, you never know who you might meet and network with. So this is very important, and I cannot wait to be in the room myself.
Yeah, I love that you said like who you want to meet and network with, because it's I remember Teresa telling me she's going to be speaking at the conference. I remember her telling me that she came to the conference last year and she ended up getting booked to speak for another opportunity based on a relationship in the room. So that happens all the time, like where you're in a space, you're plugged in, and then opportunities are there. It could be like you meet your biz bestie at the conference.
Right.
I know, like that's happened for me, where I've attended events and I built relationships that have been so long lasting. And when you're in business, like relationships really, really matter. Like I know we connected from Ari speaking at the conference before. And so it's just relationships are really, really
So
important.
important. Yes, and that's how I get most of my clients, through referrals and building relationships and putting myself in the room. So yes, social media is great, but sometimes it's nothing like that personal connection.
Yeah, offline really does it really does make a difference. And I think we should always be growing, because marketing changes, media changes, branding changes. We have so many new social media platforms that have just recently developed, and you have to stay on cutting edge.
Mm-hmm. Very true, to make yourself stand apart from the competition. I wholeheartedly agree. So I have enjoyed this conversation with you for sure. First, I want to know, how can we keep up with you? What's next? And then, of course, any parting words that you would like to share with our audience.
So definitely connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram is Podium. So I'm always like posting different videos on there. Like if I get asked a question like more than once, then I'm like, oh, let me just record a quick video on that. So it's chock full of goodness on my Instagram page. And then what's next for me? Mostly speaking. Speaking is my jam. I love it. I get so much fulfillment when I'm like on a stage. It's like a rush. And I can remember one speaking engagement that I did, and I came, and it's so not about the numbers, because it was like a small group, and one person came up to me and they told me, they were like, we were on the brink of divorce. Like I was ready to sign the divorce papers. But now as a result of hearing your talk, I feel inspired, I feel motivated, and we're gonna continue on this journey. I can see a path now on how we can work through it. And that's what speaking is for me. It is to see someone's life, sometimes many people's lives, transformed in a moment. So if you have a message, then hold tight to that message. Even if you don't see the full manifestation of your dream yet, just know that there's a space for you.
That is a great way to close this amazing segment. Again, you want to be in the room on October 21st and 22nd and get VIP, so you want that extra day. You want to be in the room to get all of these gems, because if you thought this was great, imagine how much more she has in store. And then she also has guest speakers coming to share other areas of expertise. So you are getting a whole lot for your money. So you definitely want to be in the room. I would love to thank you, Dr. Lewis, for coming to Lady Mogul Talk. It's always a pleasure just to catch up, learn what's going on in your world. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. And I cannot wait to see you. Oh my goodness, next month. Can you believe it?
It's almost here.
Almost here. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching another segment of Lady Mogul Talk, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.